During a tense family dinner, she texted me from across the table. Your family is so low class. I didn't say a word. I just forwarded the message to her dad. The look on his face was the last thing she saw before he made her apologize. My phone buzzed during dessert. I glanced down at the screen. Text from Sarah sitting directly across from me. My girlfriend of 18 months. I opened it. Your family is so low class. I looked up. Sarah was smiling at my aunt, nodding along to some story about her garden, playing the perfect girlfriend while insulting my family behind their backs. I didn't react. Just took a screenshot, set my phone face down on the table, and kept quiet that I'm Jake. I'm 31. I work as a diesel mechanic. It's a good job. Union shop, solid pay. Not rich, but comfortable. My family's always been working class. Dad drove trucks for 30 years before retiring. Mom worked in a factory. My two brothers are electricians. My sister's a nurse. We're loud. We drink beer. We tell the same stories every time we get together. We're not fancy people, but we're good people. Sarah's different. She's 29, works in pharmaceutical sales, makes great money, and grew up in a whole other world. Her dad, Richard, owns a medical supply company. Her mom hosts charity galas. They have a vacation home, talk about investment portfolios and wine pairings that I knew our backgrounds were different. I thought love would bridge that gap. Turns out it doesn't always. This dinner was at my parents' house. Mom had been planning it for weeks. She wanted everything perfect to make Sarah feel welcome. She spent 2 days cooking her best dishes: pot roast, mashed potatoes, green beans, homemade rolls. The house was spotless. She even bought new placemats. Sarah had been off from the moment we arrived. Little comments under her breath. The house was smaller than she remembered. The furniture outdated. My dad's recliner had a tear. She kept checking her phone like she couldn't wait to leave. When Mom brought out the food, family style, in big serving bowls, Sarah's nose wrinkled for half a second, like she wasn't used to anything that wasn't plated and garnished. Dinner started fine. My family tried hard. They asked Sarah about her job, complimented her dress. Mom kept offering her more food. Sarah smiled, laughed at my dad's jokes, but I could feel her impatience, like she was counting the minutes until she could escape. Then my Aunt Linda started talking about her garden, about how she grew the biggest tomatoes this year and might enter them in the county fair. It was the kind of simple story my family loves. That's when Sarah pulled out her phone. A few seconds later, mine buzzed. Your family is so low class that I stared at it. Read it 3 times. Took a screenshot. Then another one came in. How much longer do we have to stay here? Screenshot. Can we leave soon? I'm dying here. Screenshot. Your mom's cooking is so heavy. I feel sick. Screenshot. Next time we're hosting at a restaurant. Screenshot. 5 messages. One after another that I didn't reply. I just ate my mom's pot roast and listened to my aunt finish her tomato story. Sarah kept glancing at me, waiting for a response. I gave her nothing. She started to look confused, then irritated. My phone was still connected to my truck's Bluetooth. I remembered that I had Richard's number. He'd given it to me a while back when we'd had dinner at their place. Told me to call if I ever needed anything. He'd seemed like a decent guy, so I excused myself. Said I needed to grab something from my truck. Outside, I opened my phone, composed a new message to Richard, attached all 5 screenshots, and wrote, Richard, this is Jake. Sarah and I are at my parents' house for dinner. My mom spent 2 days cooking to welcome your daughter. This is what Sarah's been texting me from across the table. Thought you should know how she really feels about people who open their home to her. Send it. Watched it deliver. Slipped my phone back in my pocket and walked inside. I sat down and kept eating. Sarah was watching me. Where'd you go? She asked. Just needed something from the truck, I said. What? It doesn't matter. She looked suspicious, but didn't push. About 10 minutes later, her phone rang. She looked at the screen and went pale. Her eyes darted from me to the phone and back again. She stood up quickly. I need to take this, she said, and stepped into the kitchen. Her voice started low, then turned sharp, defensive, and finally panicked. The call lasted maybe 3 minutes. When she came back, her face was red, eyes wet. She was shaking. She stopped at the edge of the table. My whole family went silent. She stared at me. You sent my text to my dad? She asked. Her voice cracked and I nodded. Took another bite of mashed potatoes. Why? I set down my fork. Because I thought he should know how his daughter treats people who welcome her into their home. People who spend days cooking for her. People who try their best to make her feel included. Mom frowned. What's going on? She asked. Before I could answer, Sarah's phone rang again. Richard. She looked at it like it might explode. Answered with a trembling hand. She didn't put it on speaker, but his voice was loud enough for all of us to hear the edge in it. He told her to put me on the phone. She handed it to me silently. Hello. I said that Richard's voice was tight. Jake, did you send me screenshots? I confirmed I had. Richard asked if those screenshots were sent during dinner at my parents' house, while my family was hosting his daughter. I said yes. There was a long pause on the line. Then he said he was embarrassed, deeply embarrassed, and apologized for his daughter's behavior. Said there was no excuse for it. Then he asked if he could speak to my mother. I handed the phone to Mom. She looked confused, but said hello. Richard introduced himself and apologized again for Sarah's actions. My mom, being who she is, tried to be kind. Told him it was fine, really. Richard cut her off gently. Said it wasn't fine. Said he was about 40 minutes away, but was getting in his car right now. He was coming over. Mom told him that wasn't necessary, that we could handle it, but he insisted. Said he'd be there soon. Then he asked for Sarah. Mom handed the phone back. Sarah took it with both hands like it was a live wire. Richard's voice wasn't loud anymore, but judging from her face, he wasn't being soft either. She nodded a few times, said, okay, said she understood, said she'd wait. Then the call ended. Sarah stood there holding her phone. The room was dead silent. Dad cleared his throat. Anyone want more rolls? My brother Mike snorted out a laugh he couldn't hold in. The tension cracked for a moment. Sarah tried to apologize then. Said she didn't mean what she texted. I held up my hand and stopped her. Told her she did mean it. That she could save her apologies for her father and for my family. In that order, she sat back down, didn't eat another bite. Just stared at her plate. We tried to get conversation going again, but it was awkward. Aunt Linda tried to lighten the mood. Said something like, guess my tomatoes are too high class for some people. Mom shot her a look, but I saw the corner of her mouth twitch. About 45 minutes later, the doorbell rang. Dad went to answer it. Richard was standing there, business casual, like he'd just left the office. He shook my dad's hand, introduced himself, apologized for showing up unannounced. Dad invited him in. When Richard walked into the dining room, the air shifted. He looked at Sarah. His face was tight, controlled. He didn't yell. His voice was calm, but heavy. Are the texts real? He asked. Sarah nodded, tears already on her cheeks. Do you understand what you've done? He said. She tried to say she'd just been uncomfortable, that she didn't mean it like that. He cut her off immediately. Being uncomfortable doesn't give you the right to insult people who've welcomed you into their home. He turned to my mom and apologized again, sincerely, directly. Said he was sorry for Sarah's behavior and sorry she had to find out this way. Mom told him it was all right, that it was over now, and there were no hard feelings. Richard nodded once, then turned back to Sarah. Apologize, he said quietly. To everyone. Sarah's hands were trembling. Her voice cracked as she started. She turned to my mom first. I'm sorry, she said. Dinner was lovely. I had no right to say what I said. Mom nodded gently. Then Sarah went around the table. My dad, my brothers, my sister, Aunt Linda. By the time she finished, she could barely get the words out. The whole room felt heavy and uncomfortable. Mom stepped in finally, told her it was enough, that they accepted her apology. Richard thanked my mom for her kindness, then looked back at Sarah. It's time to go, he said. Sarah looked at me, eyes red. Can we talk? No, I said. There's nothing to talk about. You've shown me exactly what you think of my family and me. Richard put a hand on her shoulder. Get your things. She grabbed her purse with shaking hands. Richard shook my dad's hand again, apologized once more to everyone. Then they left. When the door closed, no one moved for a few seconds. Then Mike started laughing. That was the most intense dinner we've ever had, he said. Dad agreed. Mom just shook her head and started clearing plates. As she passed me, she gave my shoulder a squeeze. She didn't say anything. She didn't need to. About an hour later, my phone buzzed. It was a text from Richard. He said Sarah had a lot of growing up to do, that he was disappointed in her behavior. Said he completely understood if I didn't want to continue the relationship, but that he wanted me to know he thought I'd handled the situation with class. He thanked me for bringing it to his attention. I told him I appreciated how he'd handled it too. He said it was the least he could do. Then he added that my family seemed like good, genuine people, the kind he wished his daughter valued more. Maybe she'd spent too long in the wrong circles and forgotten what mattered. That night, Sarah started texting me. Long messages. She said she was mortified, sorry beyond words. Said her father had driven her home and lectured her the whole way. She wanted to make it right. Asked if we could talk. I didn't reply. Blocked her number. Then came texts from unknown numbers. She was using friends' phones. Same apologies, same promises to change. I blocked those 2.3 days later, flowers showed up at my parents' house. From Sarah. The card said she was deeply sorry. Mom called and asked what I wanted her to do with them. I told her to keep them or give them away, whatever she wanted. They were hers now, not mine. A week later, Sarah showed up at my work. I was under a truck when one of my coworkers came over and said there was a woman asking for me. That I rolled out and saw her standing by the bay door, looking completely out of place in her work clothes. I walked over, told her she needed to leave. She said she just wanted 5 minutes just to explain, to apologize properly. That I told her she'd already apologized at my parents' house in front of everyone. That was enough. We were done. She started crying, said she'd made a mistake, said she was working on herself, that she'd do better. I told her she should do better for herself and for the next person, but not for me. We were finished. She asked if there was anything she could do. I said, yeah, respect my decision and leave me alone. She stood there for another minute, waiting for me to say something else. I didn't. Then she left. 2 weeks after the dinner, Richard called me, asked if I'd be willing to meet him for coffee. I was surprised, but I agreed that we met at a cafe downtown. He thanked me again for how I'd handled everything. Said most guys would have just let it slide, let resentment fester, but I'd been direct and honest. He respected that he told me Sarah had been asking about me, wanted to know if he'd talk to me. He said he told her it wasn't his place to get involved, that she'd damaged the relationship, and whether there was anything left to fix was up to me. He made it clear he wasn't there to plead her case, that I appreciated that. Told him, so do we talk for about an hour. About work, life, family. Just two guys having coffee to at the end. He said, whatever happens with Sarah, I hope we can stay in touch. You seem like a good man to know. I said I'd like that. And we did. We've stayed in touch. We grab coffee every few months. Talk about work, about life. It's weird, but it works. He's kind of become a mentor to me. Gives advice when I ask, listens when I need to vent. He never brings up Sarah unless I do. Sarah tried reaching out a few more times over the next couple months, through mutual friends, through her sister. Then she sent me one last email. She said she understood I'd moved on, that she was sorry for how she acted, that she hoped someday I could forgive her, not for her, but for me, so I wouldn't carry anger. I wrote back once. Told her I wasn't angry, just disappointed. There's a difference. That I told her I'd thought she was someone she wasn't. That was on both of us. Wished her well, but asked her not to reach out again. She respected that. I haven't heard from her since. It's been 1.5 years now. I'm seeing someone new, Amy. She's a teacher. Grew up in a small town like me. She understands family dinners, loud laughter, and stories that get told 100 times. The first time I brought her to my parents' house, she jumped in to help my mom with dishes without being asked. Laughed at my dad's terrible jokes. Asked Aunt Linda about her garden, and actually listened to at one point during dinner. My mom pulled me aside. Told me she really liked Amy. Said she was good people. I said I thought so too. Mom hugged me and said she was proud of how I handled everything with Sarah, that standing up for family isn't always easy, but it's always right. Last month, I ran into Sarah at the grocery store. First time I'd seen her since she showed up at my work. She was with a guy, suit, tie, polished look. Her type. She saw me, froze for a second. I gave her a polite nod and kept walking. She didn't try to talk to me, and I respected that. I in the parking lot, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I almost deleted it, but I opened it. Thank you for not making that awkward. And thank you for teaching me something important. I hope you're happy.